All right, guys, welcome back to Within Tolerance. This is episode 38, and I joined. Probably gonna keep that in. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, screw it.
All right. Anyways, it's episode 38. This is your what do we want to call this? Your budget podcast. We're not paid for this,
Yeah,
and
we're still here, virus and
yeah.
all. We're giving you something to listen to while you're self quarantining and staying away from everybody else. So
Yeah, luckily CNC machines don't get it.
yeah, I know us with small shops. It's like it's the same. It's still a self quarantine if it's me and my machine, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm chilling. I'm just, making parts.
yeah,
So I guess first things first, I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering. I actually haven't gotten any emails or anything, so I'm, appreciating that you guys aren't panicking about the t-shirts. But t-shirts, couple things. One, pre-orders over, so I'm stocking, I think, 5 large XL and double XL of the charcoal gray shirts on the website, and the other colors, the stone gray, and then I think it was just a gray. Those won't be sold ever again, probably, just because everyone seemed to like the charcoal gray. So if you still want a shirt, they are available, BrickTactical.com. And then for those that have already ordered one, I should be getting, I just emailed them asking for an update, but I probably will be getting them next week, if not the following week, the first Monday. But I'm just worried that, I'm in Washington and this is where all this stuff's happening. So I'm hoping they didn't shut down or anything. I know it's a small company. It's probably only 5 people, but I'll see, and I can post on Instagram if anyone is interested as far as update on those, but they are coming. They are being made. So don't worry about that.
yep. And then upcoming guests, we have Angelo Juras, aka the True Croatian Sensation from Autodesk, on the show next week, which is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to asking him a lot of fusion questions, and I've met him and his son a few times at Autodesk University and stuff. So it'll be cool to get to virtually catch up. And then in 3 weeks we have Drew Fab on the show as well, which will be a lot of fun. So look out for our posts on Instagram asking for your questions, and we'll make sure to get them all asked.
Yeah, so submit those DMs. We'll also do the posts like we usually do. And other than that, what's up with you, Dylan?
We've actually been staying steadily busy up until, we're still really busy. We have a lot of backlogged work that we're getting through right now. But yeah, things have definitely gone quiet on the customer end, probably in the last 3 or 4 days. But yeah, before we get to that, that was a big question from 3 listeners. So before we get to that, staying really busy. The orange fixture plate finally showed up Thursday or Wednesday. I can't remember when I posted it, but anyway, it showed up. It looks fantastic. I'm so excited to get it mounted in the machine. It is so heavy. We're gonna grab a engine hoist and use that to install it, because there's no way that we could do it safely, leaning into the machine, just us two.
Is it just aluminum, right?
Yeah, but it's 1.5 inches thick or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And then each of the 0-point stations is all cast iron, and there's 10 of them, and I think they weigh 12 or 14 pounds a piece, so that's another 140 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a heavy beast. But just having it on the pallet and locking down some of the vices and all that, it feels awesome. There's zero play in the vices when you drop them on the 0 points. Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm starting to get my cam templates all sorted. I need to get a riser for our tool setter design this week.
Okay.
The machine probably, I've got work that'll probably last me through mid next week. So sometime next week I'll get it machined, and I'm just going to machine it probably in place. So I'll do the base op and press the pins in like a normal vise, and then we'll mount the fixture plate, and then I'll mount that to one of the pallets or one of the 0-point locations, because I've got a bunch of extra pull studs, and then machine the top of it in place so it's perfectly, perpendicular to the spindle travel and all that stuff.
Okay. And then you had said, so I saw there's 10 stations, and was it 2 or 4 were for a 4th axis?
2 of them are going to be outside the travel for a 4th axis.
Okay, I didn't know if it was 2 or 4.
Yeah. So we'll still have 8 in the travel, and I'm gonna plan on having the fourth axis. Well, I guess one of the stations will be taken up by the tool setter, so we'll have 7 to use for the vices. Probably end up just using 6 if I had to guess. And then we've got 2 of the deltas, and then we'll probably keep one of the 6-inch vices mounted in the machine as well. And so 2 of
Okay.
them will be taken up by the 6-inch vice, and then we'll have 4 to play with for the deltas.
Okay, makes sense.
And then I just saw today Orange released 2 new sizes of the deltas as well. So there's now 2 sizes bigger than the one I currently have. So if we add more later down the stream, we'll probably end up getting either the medium-sized one or the large one now.
Oh, I saw a post, but I haven't been on Instagram today. I'm looking at it now. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it kind of matches along with the offerings from Shunk and Fifth Axis and all that. Like they all have 3 or 4 sizes, so it makes sense that they have that now.
Yeah, and Orange, their vices, and same with these. They kind of have that same look. You mean it's just basically extrude the length of everything and the same design, more or less.
Yeah, yeah. Just more serrations for the fixed jaw, and then a longer screw in the center.
Yeah.
And now that they're making that screw, I imagine the changes are probably even easier on them to do.
Were they not making it before?
No, so the very, very initial run of them, they were buying screws from McMaster, if I remember right, and then heat treating them in house. But they had a few of them that warped out pretty bad and like ended up getting through QC. And it wasn't a whole bunch of them, but I want to say that I saw 1 or 2 on Instagram pop up, and that was kind of the final straw. And so they're like, we tried to lower costs by like, outsourcing things that we could. And they were like, well, we'll just have to bring this in house as well. I'm like, now they make nuts to butts, everything about the vice.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm super, super, super excited. Everything feels super, like really high quality. Pull studs feel great. I'm really looking forward to having a sub plate that I can drop on there, all the fun stuff. And yeah, it should be really kick ass once we get it going.
Yeah, you need to get that going as soon as you can. Do you just mount it with like T nuts or T bolts and stuff?
Yeah, I want to say there's maybe 6 or 8 places to screw through
Okay.
to mount it. Or it might even be one under each vise. I need to check again my drawing for it, or I can just check it when I take all the 0 points off. But
I would hope there's at least 8. You'd feel like 6 would be kind of like, I guess it's heavy, but still.
yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, if it's relatively flat, 6 should be all right. But we'll see. I'll definitely update everybody. I think I'm going to start taking some video when I get everything together too. And I've had a few people reach out when I posted it on my stories, kind of asking for my workflow and all that. So I'm thinking I'm going to do some videos, just maybe programming a test part through the like probing externally through the cam and putting it on there and showing like how I locate it in the vices and the joint on the models, so I can change the vice jaw locations and all that, and just kind of walk everybody through the whole thing and how I envision it. And it'll be good. They always say like if you can teach somebody how to do something, it helps your understanding of it too. So like I feel like if I can get it nailed down enough where I can take a video and feel confident releasing a video, that I'll know it pretty well by the end of that too.
Yeah, and if you forget something, you have a reminder.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, so that's been a big thing. Otherwise, we've just been continuing cleaning, adding a bunch. I bought a bunch of plastic bins for McMaster that I've been doing. That hand pump that Grimsmo posted like 6 or 8 months ago that we both
Oh
bought.
yeah.
So I never mounted that because that was like just as we started looking at new machines, and like I was going to mount it on the whey oil for the kitty, and then I was like, oh well, I'll mount it on the coolant. But I don't know about you, but I hate taking the tops off a coolant or like any 5-gallon
Oh
pail.
yeah.
So I found on McMaster the other day, they make like a 5-gallon pail. I think they call it a wrench or something, but it's like a big lever that like you clip under the lid, and it goes out to the center of the lid, and you can just like lever it off and like just slowly work your way around like a can opener.
Huh.
And man, it was, I don't know, $20, but it took 20 seconds to get the lid off.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, money worth spending. And I bought the steel one. I think they have an aluminum one that's a little cheaper. and maybe one that was a little more expensive even from there. But yeah, the second I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, getting that. Never dealing with that
Yeah.
crap again. So yeah, once I got that in, I was like, all right. So I mounted that up on our currently active 5 gallon thing of coolant, and that's been really cool. No pun intended. And yeah, besides that though, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm just like pretty swamped with work. Though we'll see moving forward from here. But yeah, right now we've got a lot to keep us busy.
That's good. You also had something else here on the Google Sheets. I'm curious to see
Which one?
the remembering the cost of not having your parts to the customer.
Oh yeah, so I have like a weekly. Well, lately it's been less, but like I usually have a weekly call with a friend of mine who's in Chicago and
Okay.
has a commercial LED lighting company, and so he's like a businessman as well. He's fairly young, and it's just it's like what we do here, but like because we're from such different industries, we very often see like giant gaping holes in each other's business strategies. We're like, well,
Okay.
why in the hell would you do that? Why would I care about that? That kind of stuff. And so I was telling him, oh, I bid out these parts this week that I like really didn't want. Like one of my customers who always wants really quick turnaround on quotes and stuff, like kept pushing me. Like at first I no quoted them, and then like they pushed me again, and I was like, I really don't want to do them. Like no quote. And they're like, tell us what you need to get done. And like so I finally quoted them like way, way, way higher than I thought that they would ever bite at, and like on a longer turnaround time than they have ever accepted from me. And like they bit immediately. They're, yep, no problem. And in talking to him about this, he was like, yeah, but you got to realize, like, it might be, I don't remember what it was, a few grand in parts. He's like, but if it's holding up like a multi-million-dollar project, or like, the drawings took, like, let's say the drawings took, you know, 10 hours to make for these parts. Well, they're paying their engineers, roughly, let's say it's $1,000 or $1,000 a day or $100 an hour or something like that. It's like they've already spent more than they're spending on the cost just getting the drawings to you.
Yeah.
And so like it was a good lesson in like, yeah, like I would never pay this much for these parts, but I also don't have like a multi-million-dollar project waiting on these parts.
Yeah, and you're not the one buying them, so
Yeah, well, and like we've talked about that before. That's kind of the whole game of quoting as it is
yep.
like figuring out what they'll buy it for. But like I never thought about like yes, these might be very expensive parts, but if they're going into something that is 10x what you're or 100x what they're paying for your parts, they're not going to care. They just need their parts.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, if you add up their cost to get to the point they're at is $10,000 and you're bidding $500 a part and they need two parts, well, it's like, yeah, duh, like Amazon Prime that now.
Right, exactly. So it was like it was one of those things that like yeah I should have known, and inherently I probably did know, but like having it laid out like that for me was like eye opening. I was like, oh yeah, of course they bought. Of course they bit on that. Like they needed the parts.
Yeah,
So
that's a good thing for anyone listening, really.
yeah, it was just a good reminder and a good lesson of like it might seem ridiculous to you in the moment, but like yeah, there is a much bigger picture than you can see very often.
Yeah, know your customers the best you can.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's kind of where my week's been. It's been a lot of that, like just a lot of keeping busy and just trying to get through all this work.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been really good. Little stressful, but good for sure.
That's good. Yeah.
What about you? I've seen some stories of some successes, and it looks like you got some questions here. So what's going down with you?
So, I guess a couple things. One, I got my boy machine, the mold insert base mold thing, whatever you want to call it. I got it working. Long story short, I've made parts. I've learned a lot, which is awesome, and I can't complain there. And I'm already like thinking about basically, I made this mold frame with removable inserts for different parts. I finally got everything working. I got it ejecting parts, and like I literally could walk away and it would just crunch out parts. And I made like 900 parts, which is awesome. And then I realized that 25 tons of force does a lot to aluminum. And it busted the, let's see, the A side of my mold frame because it was aluminum. It was really thin. There were some excess holes, and I think it that shouldn't be aluminum, and especially that thin. So I'm already thinking, how can I redesign it? I'm gonna have to figure out, honestly, just like 1018 steel would be fine. Any steel is better than aluminum for this, at least in my opinion. If anyone out here that's listening builds molds, let me know. Obviously, a lot of people are going to say like P20 and all this crazy hard stuff, but I honestly don't think I need that. That's, kind of overkill for what I'm trying to accomplish. But,
Yeah. I
you
mean, I
know,
I think P20 is relatively easy to machine, though, isn't it?
yeah, that's what I've heard. Just as far as I don't know really where to get a big, thick plate and how much it would cost.
I know McMaster has it, I think,
Okay.
but I have no idea what it costs. I'm
Yeah,
looking it
it
up right
need to
now.
be pretty big chunk.
How big is that piece?
Probably 6 by 6 by 2.
Oh, yeah, that is pretty big.
Yeah.
I don't see it on McMaster. They have S7, but I don't see. And they have H13, but I don't see P20.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe I'm just
But
missing it though.
yeah, so I need to make certain parts of this mold in steel. I want to make the overall size of it bigger if I can, because I'm running into the problem where there's so many ejector pins and just the guide pins for the ejector plates and all these things. It's kind of cramped, and I've learned, you know, I really need to give myself some more space and working room to put some of these moving parts. So I might try to make it bigger, which is also good because then I can make bigger parts on kind of this universal system. And, I learned a lot today actually because I took the 3 hour drive to Richland, Washington, where a buddy of mine has an injection molding company. And he actually just built, I think, a 50,000 square foot building. And it was like $1.3 million for the building or something crazy. And he is working on that. And it's just cool to see, larger injection molding machines, CNC machines, everything running and looking at different molds. And it's just a whole nother world that I'm trying to tap into. And, talking to some of their mold guys there about what I'm trying to accomplish and answering some questions, which is great. And so I'm going to try to apply all this knowledge in one spot and give it another go. And I think I'll be able to nail it. And I'm really excited because, I'm learning a lot about the machine, the boy itself, a lot more than I have been. And then I'm also learning about, how actually injection molding and like the mold building process works.
That's awesome. That's really nice that you have that kind of access to somebody like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been great to me. He's helped me out. He actually, so when I was, let's see, 13, I want to say. Yeah, it was 13 because let's see. Was it 13? Yeah, I made my first production mold because I was originally making these Lego Minecraft parts on a small mold on my smaller machine, like two at a time. And I got this big order, made a production mold, and he made the parts for me. And I was able to go over there, and he was super cool about like basically just letting me play with the machine all day and gave me a bunch of parts for super cheap, basically at his cost.
Wow,
So I've known him for a while, and everyone there is just awesome company, awesome guys.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the boy side of things. And then I just last night released on my website these new Lego vests that I've been working on a lot recently. And it's a very difficult part if you look at it. People will probably think, if for the machining people, they'll see like, okay, how would this be molded? And it's definitely more difficult than just a symmetrical like gun, for example. So there's a lot of challenges there, but it's really rewarding because I designed the vest, I designed the mold, I made the mold, made the parts, like I did everything in this process, and it's just really rewarding, especially when people start buying them and are going crazy on Instagram.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So was that what you were molding in the boy?
This one was in the smaller machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I haven't. This one has some removing, some core features that have to come, like metal pieces that have to come out of the part. If you look at the vest, basically picture like a police vest or a SWAT team vest. The where your torso is, your body, there has to be a metal piece there to create that distance and the right features for the Lego figure. So that piece has to come out. It could be made on my boy, but I'd have to kind of get fancy with what's called angle pins and slides, and that gets kind of crazy. And I'm not to that point yet, really.
Okay. Well, cool. Congrats. That's really cool. Really, really awesome. I'm glad
Yeah.
it looked great. Like I was looking at your Instagram post today.
Yeah. I got some good pictures last night, so I'm really happy.
Well, very cool. And then what about machining? Just doing a lot of mold stuff?
Yeah, right now it's been, let's see, those vest molds took a while because, oh yeah, that's where I used that really long tool. Um,
Oh, right. Yeah, we didn't talk about that because that was before Tony last week. But yeah, for anybody who didn't see, Peyton had a stupid looking 15th thou end mill. It was what, extended a quarter inch on
yeah,
a shake that
270
was
thou.
10th thou or 9th thou or something like that.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was dumb. I was rooting for you, but I expected you to text me a broken tool picture. I was like, oh, this is not looking good, but I'm glad it worked.
Yeah, I mean, like you saw, I was able to get it dialed in within a couple tenths, and um, it just worked. I just took it really slow, and it worked. And for I think each one of these mold halves took 10, 11 hours, and I had 3 molds, so
Oof.
6 times 8 or 6 times 10, that's 60 hours of machine time. I ran that in about 2.5 days because I basically did it while I was sleeping, woke up, swapped out, the blank and ran the other half, and just that for 2 days straight and got the molds done.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is a lot of runtime.
Yes, it is.
Was it mostly that 15th thou ball, or was it just normal?
I mean, it was honestly all my standard mold tools. Um, and then let's see. I was able to finish some of the cavity work with my normal 15 thou ball that's stubbier than the long one. Um, and that's nice because I could go a little faster. And honestly, the super long one, the runtime for each mold was only like 2 hours. It was just cleaning up this bottom corner that's why I needed that reach.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. And yeah, both the parts off your boy and off the other mold machine look great. So
yeah, it's
nicely
really
done.
cool. And today, like I said, when I went over to my buddy's company, it was really cool because I brought my cousin with me, and he was giving him kind of a tour. And it was cool because he mentioned, he's like, I like these machines, and he pointed to a smaller one, kind of my size, of the boy that I have in the corner of his shop that was just running. And I think he said it was running like wheelchair components. And he's like, yeah, no one's touched that machine all day, and it's just cranking out parts. And then there was another one that was making medical parts that was the exact machine I have, another boy, 22. And I looked over at the counter on how many parts it made, and made like 5,000. And I think there's 2 on a sprue, so 10,000 parts in half a working day, and no one had to touch it. I'm just like, this is it.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of them, right? Is just like printing money once they're set up.
Yeah, set it and forget it.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like you're really close to breakthrough with your company, where you'll be able to, make molds for your boy instead of your other one, and kind of, you know, get more thing. At least like hot sellers produce a lot of them really quickly without, a lot of fidgeting.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, any products moving forward, I'm trying to, how would I make this production? Like, none of this small mold stuff. Like, it's great, but it's like, okay, let's skip that step if we can. Let's, how can I make 2,000 of these in an afternoon?
Right, exactly.
So,
I mean, that's
just,
the whole point of you having that machine, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
well, cool. That's great. I'm really glad to hear that. You got all that done. I know that the boy mold saga has been a few months running now. I feel like we could go back maybe 5 or 6 episodes ago, and we'd just be starting to talk about it. So
Yeah. And then
I mean, go
the
for it.
main reason I went over there today was I sell this Halo armor for figures that I have a mold for, and I'd been running parts here for a while with it, and I had some issues with the mold. One of the actual, so you have a, I don't know how familiar some of the listeners are with injection molding, and I don't know how familiar you are, Dylan, either, to be honest. But so you have a mold,
Educate me.
yeah. So you have your mold, you have your cavity. The cavity is the actual cutout of the part. And then you have what's called a sprue. And then some people, I always get confused. I guess sprues and runners, there's two different things. But for talking purposes, you have a sprue, which is just like, I mean, it can be any shape. Picture like a T shape. And it's basically to get the plastic from the nozzle of the machine through the mold to your part. It's just like the pipeline, basically. And so, but between the sprue and the part, there's what's called a gate. That's what connects the two together. And that's very important where that gate is located on your part, because that controls the flow of the plastic, how big that gate is, the shape of the gate. That's all very um, calculated and whatnot. I just kind of guess, and it seems to work so far. But on this mold for this armor, one of the gates actually, it's really thin, and it's what's called a submarine gate. So they actually tip the mold up at an angle, and they EDM sync a little like cone shape to connect the sprue to the cavity itself, and it made a really thin portion of the steel. And I think what had happened when I was running them is one of the parts didn't eject, and this happens every now and then. It's not ideal, but sometimes it does. A part sticks, let's say, the machine doesn't know it, and it closes back up on it, and it just smushes it, right, because of all the force, which normally is not like too bad for the mold because it's a hardened steel mold and it's just a plastic part, right? But what had happened was, I think this must have happened a couple times, because that really thin part of that gate caved in, and what was happening is it was injecting parts just fine, but it had made just kind of like a barb, like enough of a burr that it would catch that gate once it's filled with plastic, and it wouldn't eject, and actually basically it was blocking off a cavity of this mold. And so I was running it, normally I get two parts, I was getting one. And basically every time this would happen, I would have to heat up a little piece of brass, stick it in that piece of plastic, let it cool, and yank it out. And literally every time. So it just wasn't working. And so I took that over there, and they're looking at it, and they're probably going to either weld it up, and I can't remember what it's called. Um, Basically like welding, where you're welding, like, I think he said like 4 or 8 thou layers of steel.
Hmm.
Um, and you can do that so many times before it becomes unstable. Like, I think he said you can only do a couple layers at a time, but basically build that material back up, surface grind the insert down flush, and then come in there and remachine that gate back out. And that should beef it up. My suggestion, and this is kind of their plan B if that doesn't work, is to EDM sync like a rectangle out, and then make a steel insert that could be replaceable for that gate.
Oh, nice.
Um, so basically, where I left it was, I was like, hey, like, this needs to be fixed eventually, because I need parts, and I just need to know how much it's going to cost. If it's, I have a feeling it's not going to be cheap. It's going to probably be at least $1,000. But I mean, compared to the price of the mold, that's not that, that much money, really.
Yeah. Is it a hot seller?
Yeah, this is, I'm like literally down to like a handful of these two colors of parts. And luckily, they actually checked their inventory, because normally they run extra of parts. Why his thing, and this is kind of, I'm curious to get your take on it, and anyone listening. So I understand his philosophy, right? If I come to him and I say, hey, I need 1,000 green parts and I need 1,000 red parts, and he sets up the mold, dials it in, runs those parts, and he's like, hey, you know Payton didn't order any more than 1,000, but we're set up, let's make 2,000 in case he comes back, right? And we'll inventory those, right?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense from like his side of things. But then for example, I came over today and I'm like, and they're like, hey, we actually have some in inventory. I'm like, really? I didn't know that. And he comes out with like 2 bags of 500 of red and blue, which are the colors I need the most. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'll obviously take those. But then he also comes out with 5,000 parts of this green color that, yes, it's popular, but I don't need 5,000.
Right.
And I took them and he was like, you can take them. And my thing is like, okay, if I'm going to get charged 50 cents for each part, like I was paying before, all of a sudden now I'm paying almost $3,000 in parts I never ordered.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I wouldn't have taken them. I would have taken the ones I needed, but I would have been like, you can continue to inventory these or throw them away.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, I mean, we haven't talked price. And normally, like I said, he's been pretty good to me. So he might bring that up. But if he doesn't, I'll definitely, I'll say, I can take some of them and I can pay you when I sell them. But like, as for now, I don't need this many.
Yeah. I mean, if we could do that, that would mean that when somebody orders one of something, I could be like, well, here's 10 for the same, per part price. And I
Yeah.
expect payment for all 10,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would give him a little pushback. I mean, it's not like, on one hand, it's great that he has the ones that you need, but on the other hand, 500 is way different than 5,000,
Yeah.
So I would give him a little pushback and be like, well, I'll take 500 of each, but
Yeah.
I won't take 5,000 of one that I don't really need.
And it's kind of that weird position, right? Because it's like they're of value to me, kind of, because it's like, well, I already have some in my inventory. So it's like, yes, these are valuable to me. Like, yes, I can sell them eventually. But to him, it's like, it's just honestly at this point, it's garbage to him. But he's like, but I could get money out of it. Like it's kind of a weird position for both people.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's a. I I don't understand running. I mean, I guess maybe. I mean, for all you know, they might have just like forgot the machine was running,
Yeah.
like, and just accidentally made 5,000 more than they thought. Like, it sounds like they've got a lot of machines in the mix, and if they are running unattended all day, like maybe he was like, oh shoot, I was supposed to change over that color 3 hours ago.
Yeah. And I mean, like some of their other parts, I understand because it's like, he was making a bunch of gun parts today, and like I understood it for, and medical stuff. It's like if you have like set, every 6 months I need 500. Like I guess that's different. Like especially if contracts are involved, but like even then, I feel like it's just like I don't know. It's like I just didn't order those, and it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
So I don't know. I'll keep everyone posted on that because I think everyone could learn from that.
Definitely. Definitely. So we've got, oh, you've got a few questions up here.
Oh yeah. All right. Generative design, WTF. That's what I wrote there. Okay. I was gonna talk to you. This was what I was trying to think the other podcast, but okay, generative design. I'm curious to get your take, and I'm curious if anyone wants to chime in and educate me because maybe I'm just being dumb. But okay, I understand the concept of generative design, and my biggest thing is like, okay, I've played with it in Fusion. Some of the geometries and stuff it makes are just the stupidest looking thing. And like I don't understand, like, even if you select like the cheapest manufacturing methods, it makes the weirdest shaped thing. And it's just like this can't be cost effective. It doesn't look good. Like is it just in the baby stages or am I missing something? Like a good example is not to bash on John Saunders, but like that truck he's making has like no, you know, it might function better, but like he's been posting about, like it's taking him a lot of work to make it.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there is stages of generative, ugh, words. There are stages of it. So like there was something in Inventor. I think it's still there. I'm blanking on what it's called, but it's like 2D generative design. And so
Okay.
you can apply it to like a face and it'll show you where the load paths are going and you can design around that. And so like the way that like the truck that he designed was designed with full 5 axis in mind and with weight as its final goal. So it
Okay.
is removing all weight that does not need to be there to handle the loads that they supplied to the case. So it's again follows. I think I've said it on the podcast before. There's a saying in a lot of machining: garbage in, garbage out. Like the output of a lot of these processes is only as good as the input you give it. So like in Fusion, you can actually design an entire part and choose parts of it that you want to remain no matter what. And then, like, let's say you've got a connector between two places that see load, you can like chop up that body and just say, I just want to generate just between these two things. And like maybe weight is your most important thing there, like in that area or something. So
Okay.
it's really like it's almost an art. Like it's only as good as the person using it and the cases that they're giving it.
Okay. And so I guess, for weight, like it literally is weight is the final goal. Like if this was made out of gold, I want it to be as light as possible versus like runtime.
Right. Or it's going on an airplane, like, or it's going on a spacecraft. Like you heard that on that factory tour, it was what every pound on the booster lost him a few pounds in the payload or something like that,
Yeah.
or
And
every
I
10
think,
pounds lost him a pound or something like that.
yeah. And I think the statistic is what a pound is like $14,000 to send to space.
Right. So like in those cases, you would want to do weight for every single part that you possibly could. Like anything that was viable to be manufactured and lose weight and still be in your safety margin, like you're 100% going to do everything you can to reduce that weight.
To a point, right? As far as cost, right?
Well, I mean, you can just do the math right there. Like if you're sending a rocket up, like if it takes you, I don't know, even a full day, let's say their shop rate is $65 an hour or even $100 an hour for a 10-hour day, that's $1,000. So if it costs you $1,000 more to make this one part, but you're saving $14,000 every single time a rocket goes to space, you've made yourself, 1,400% profit or savings every single time a rocket leaves the Earth.
Yeah, that's
So like
true.
it's like a super easy calculation if that's all you're losing. Like, I mean, granted, if it costs you $500,000 more to manufacture the part, maybe you've got to do some math. You got to really look into how many rockets you're going to be sending. But like, I don't know, it's cheap enough now to do generative design, and like we had Andrew on from Ansys, and like that's a lot of what they do. Or not Ansys. But anyway, like that's what his company does. There's a lot of companies out there that do this generative stuff, and yeah, so it really just it is the way of the future. But yeah, a lot of the times it looks funky. Like it's not about. I don't think there's a generative program out there that's like, give me the best looking thing for this. It's always about best weight, best cost, best load case, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I understand everything you're saying. It's just for me, it's like, well, I guess it's not for me, but like as far as like, okay, not the generative isn't, but like maybe this question doesn't apply. But like if you just have like a 90-degree bracket with two holes in it, and it's like, do you give this to a manual machinist that can make it in X amount of time and for X cost, or do you spend this much more to save this much weight for it to be a tree stump looking thing that basically works the same, but I guess it just comes down to math, really, what cost savings and where.
Yeah, it really is. So first off, Andrew worked for Altair, not Ansys. I was thinking of Kurt Chan. But both of them, they both work for companies that do this. And yeah, you're not gonna like. I don't think for a long time now we are not going to see simple products that have simple solutions go through um, generative design. There's no point. Like you will spend more money on them. Period. But like there are generative. I'm not sure if Fusion allows you to do it, but there are generative programs that allow you to reduce volume as well. So like if you're casting something and you can reduce the volume by a certain amount, that's more money in your pocket. Or like if you're 3D printing something and you can reduce the volume, that's more money in your pocket. So like there are many end goals to generative, but like if you're making a bracket that you don't give a shit about and you're just mounting it on the wall to put books on, you know, that's not a that's not a test case for generative, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it just comes down to, like you said, um, what's your end goal, and then what's the math behind that end goal to make it work.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, like, and I think there's more and more intelligence in the generative, and so it's becoming an easier use case for like a lot of different problems. But it's definitely not the be all end all of anything. It's just at this point for a lot of people, like the trucks on the skateboard, that's just, you know, for a lack of a better term, it's just showing off. You know, it's just like,
Yeah,
look at the cool shit I can do. Like, you know,
yeah,
and like I totally understand that. When generative was free, I wish I'd had a little more time because I was playing around with it for a few days trying to make something worth machining just because I wanted to play with it, you know?
yeah. I was too, and I got some weird looking parts that were not what I wanted. Let's just say that.
Yeah, same. It definitely takes. I need to go back through the classes that I took at AU on it and kind of play around with it some more and watch them again and look at my notes. Rob Lockwood had a few parts that he had brought that were really, really cool. Like he had his I can't remember what he calls it, but he's got his little box cutter that he made generatively, and that thing looked awesome and was all machined and fancy. And he also had a bookshelf bracket that I think he machined for one of the cam challenges
Oh,
that was
really?
equally cool.
Oh, yeah. I just saw that on his story from a while ago.
Yeah,
I think it is, at least.
yeah. So you know, I think for you and me and a lot of small shops and things like that, that we don't really see a whole lot of use, like real use, out of generative right now.
Yeah,
But it does come up with some really interesting and cool geometry, and sometimes you can make it look, you can really steer it and tell it what you want with, you know, blocking geometry and different ways of playing with it. Like if you watch Rob's video on it, or his class from AU 20, was it last year, 2019, maybe 2018, one of those years. He kind of goes into what he did for his box cutter, and it was pretty cool.
yeah. All right. Last question I have for all the home shops out there. How do you guys keep your machines quiet so your neighbors don't yell at you?
Are your neighbors yelling at you?
No, but I don't want them to.
Uh,
I'm just
um,
curious if anyone had. I've used and played with soundproofing, and honestly, you can't hear anything unless I'm using the shear hog. But like, I just want to be safe than sorry, and I'm curious if anyone has some cool special soundproofing that I've never heard of. I've tried the stuff that has like the lead inside of it and it's foil. I've tried like the generic like triangle foam stuff.
hmm. Yeah,
So
I mean that's what I would have said too. So I'm no help. I
yeah.
also don't have to keep anything quiet. So
Hey.
there are people who have gotten noise complaints that are in the suite just behind me.
Oh.
Apparently, they like just moved in a couple days ago, and like they do decorative iron and things like that, so welding. And
Oh,
apparently,
okay.
they got noise complaints for like blasting music. And
That'd be
I
me.
well, I must just be on the right side of the building because I'm there at like 2 a.m. blasting music because I have the machine going, the compressor going, earplugs in, and I still want to be able to hear what I'm listening to.
Yeah, you're in your own world.
Yeah, and I've never had anybody complain, so it must be the building just kind of shielding my music and stuff from everybody
That's
else.
awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, they came by the other day while we were outside and we met them, and they're like, "Yeah, we've been here like 3 days and got no noise complaint." I was like, "Oh, that sucks."
Dang.
Yeah, so I yeah, all I would have suggested was, you know, insulation, something like what is it, Second Skin? I think is the one that they use on cars.
Okay.
Um, I know to noise dampen, like all of the people that I watch on YouTube that shoot video, they always put stuff in the corners, especially because that's where you get a lot of sound reverberation. So they
Interesting.
put like soft boxes in they kind of block off the corner, like they're a little triangle that fits in the corner there.
Hmm.
I don't know how well that would do to keep your noise inside, but I don't know. You could look into it.
Yeah. I'm just curious if anyone is in a similar. I know there's guys out there that are listening that have machines in their garage, and I'm just curious if there's a precaution that I might be missing.
Yeah, yeah. I'd be interested to see what everybody else says too.
Yeah. So it looks like we got a good amount of questions here.
We do. So the first one is my question, and I'm
Uh
ready to
oh.
start some shit. This is
Oh
gonna be. I
gosh.
feel like this is gonna be as bad as Fanuc and Fanuc. Well, because I got into it with a coworker this week.
Uh
So
oh.
when you manually tool change, like when you MDI a tool change, how do you MDI it? What is your, let's say you wanted to change the tool 6, what do you put in the control?
T6 ATC forward.
Okay, well, for those of us who don't have a Haas, let's
I
say you
would
had
do
to type.
just M6 T6 or vice
Okay,
versa.
would you do it like that, or would you do it T6 M6?
Let's see. Oh, I see where this is going to be stupid with people. Cuz like you want to say what would I do? Before I knew that trick, I'm pretty sure I do M6 T6.
Okay, that's what I do, and that, for everybody listening, is the correct way to do it.
Oh. He
I'm
said
ready to I'm ready to
it.
start some shit. Because you wouldn't say tool give me, you would say give me the tool. It is a
Yeah, that's
language.
exactly. Yeah.
That's how you would say it.
Yeah, I
But
want a tool change and I want tool 6.
but I was helping a coworker out and was doing M6 T14 or whatever on one of our brothers, and another one came over and was like, "Oh, you're having tool problems because some idiot typed in the code like this." And I was like, "No, that's how you speak. So that's how I would type it because I know grammar and I know how to speak." And
Yeah.
so we got into it a little bit. I mean, we're good friends, but the second I had that conversation, I was like, "Oh man, I got to see what all of our followers say," because it seemed like our shop was pretty well split too at my day job.
That's a story post right there tomorrow
Oh yeah,
when this goes
I'm
up.
I'll definitely do a poll because both Brad and I are strict M6 T whatever. Like I asked him about it. I was like, just sanity checking. How would you do a tool change? And
Sanity checking.
he was like M6 T whatever. Of course. Like, what am I, a psychopath?
Of course. He did not say that.
He 100% did. I'd have to go
Oh
dig back
my
through
god.
Yeah, he was like, that's the only way. Like, of course, that's how you do it.
This is a staged conversation for
No,
everyone listening.
no, I 100%. I'll even try to find a picture of it and post it along with the poll because that is exactly how it went.
That's amazing.
So anyway, I'm ready to start a fight. You tell me while I'm wrong. I don't think I am. No, you know what? I know I'm not wrong, but go ahead and try to tell me why I'm wrong.
Everyone gang up on Dylan. This is your chance.
Um, but that was the only question that I had this week, and
That's awesome.
yeah. All right, well, let's go through them. I think I'm going to save the second one on this list till the last
All
because I
right.
feel like. So T5 Manufacturing Co. said, "How do you acquire new customers?" And we've kind of covered this in past ones, but I figured since you just picked up a new customer, or at least a new potential customer this week, that I'd bring it back up and we could kind of, briefly gloss over it, and you can maybe share whatever nuggets led you to your new customer this week.
Yeah, I mean, like Dylan said, we've talked about this before. So if you haven't, I think we've got a couple podcasts. Go back and check them out. But honestly, word of mouth and just you'd be shocked if you start saying that you have a CNC machine or you have capabilities. People know people that know people. And, I've had people come check out, my machine and they're like, oh, my brother-in-law's son or whatever does this and works at Boeing and they need parts or, just all sorts of crazy leads like that. And so that's a big one. And then honestly, a good avenue that I've done, and Dylan, you should do the same. I think I told you this a while ago, but if you post on Facebook Marketplace that like I have an ad that I don't think's up anymore, but it looked like I was selling my machine for $50, which wasn't the case. And you get a lot of messages about people wanting to buy your machine for $50, but you just reframe them to look at the description of the ad saying that you're a machine shop offering machining services. And I've gotten a couple jobs through that, which is great, especially because it's always local people, which is nice. So I guess that's my couple tips. I don't want to share everything, as does, everyone doesn't want to share their really good secrets, but that's how I started, and that's really 90% of how I continue to get customers.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm very much the same way. Like, I would say maybe 3 or 4 of my customers I have gone after, but for the most part, it's been friend of a friend or word of mouth or something like that. So I'm right there with you.
And I know for everyone listening that's either thinking about getting a machine, that has a machine and that's slow on work, or they want to get into this or anything like that, and they're listening to us and they're like, what the heck? Like, that's not an answer. Like, word of mouth. And trust me, I was there because I was asking these same questions 2 years ago when I was thinking about getting a machine. I'm like, well, like anyone can buy a machine, but it's like, and anyone can machine parts, but it's like, where the heck do you get the parts to machine? Like, you know, and everyone was like, oh, word of mouth, word of mouth. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, give me a customer. Like, what company needs parts? And it's just like, no, that's not how it works. And it sounds frustrating, but you really have to be in it. And once you get there, it'll make sense, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, one of our best customers, or like one that I most enjoy dealing with, I got because when we finally got our machine set up, I made a Facebook post just on my personal Facebook that was like, hey, I've got a shop. Here's some pictures of stuff I've made. I'd love to work with any of my friends that, have work. And like one of them was like, hey, I work for a company and we're looking for somebody to do work for us. And like now we're one of their leading suppliers.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just, you never know. I go to a lot of events and like just meet people, and like you might waste your time with a lot of people, or like it might seem like a waste of time, and then months down the road turn into something. Like I went to a meeting with I can't remember what he was the director of, but there's like a new maker space, art space in town that just took over like the old Gap in one of our malls, and they have like one of the rooms that they have is a robotics and 3D printing lab, and like it's kind of understaffed right now and not really fully fleshed out. But like I went and met with him and took a tour of the building, which was like absolutely drop dead gorgeous anyway. Like the space on its own is amazing. I just am looking forward to seeing how the maker side of it kind of fleshes out. But I was there 30, 45 minutes or something like that, gave him some business cards, shook some hands, expressed our interest in what we do and what we excel in, and maybe it'll turn into something and maybe it won't, or maybe he'll know somebody that we fit better with, or anything like that. But I got the word out and I at least met some people. So
Yeah, that's all you can do.
yep. um Another question from Stiffy84 was, what is your favorite most used milling tool in your shop?
Milling tool in my shop. Half-inch end mill.
But what brand?
YG.
Okay. So three
And
flute uncoated.
yes,
Okay.
that's like my go-to for everything.
All right. I'd say my go-to is a 3/8 Diamondback stealth coated Destiny tool for roughing. And then, so like I've told you before, I have the first 8 tools that are my standard tools, but like by far that one gets used on almost every part, and then the 3/8 finisher gets used on almost every part too. And that's now from GW Schultz, which so far I'm really liking it. I I wasn't getting the mirror finishes I wanted, and like that you see, Dr. Phil and Avant get. And then the other day I was hand jogging some steps and some soft jaws to hold some parts,
Okay.
and got like a dead mirror with it. And I was taking like, I don't know, 40% step over, had the handle in 100, and just was like full on jogging it as fast as I could. And so I think I just need to load up the end mill a little more. It seems like it likes load and it likes to go fast. So
Interesting.
I'm gonna play with it some more and see if I can get some better finishes out of it. Not that the finishes I was getting are bad; they're actually gorgeous. They're just not any better than the Vipers. But if I could get that mirror that I got jogging those soft jaws, it would definitely be better.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question, Stiffy84. But I, that's my favorite milling tool, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any. Oh, I mean, I guess I could say my ASX 445R face mill. Like that thing is the easiest way to get mirrors on aluminum. Period. You just throw it in and like press go, pretty much.
Yeah,
Now that we've got our speeds and feeds dialed, and like on the dual contact arbor that we have in there now, I can take, I don't know, double or triple the depth of cut that I was taking in the kitty, and it just purrs and it does not care.
that's awesome.
Uh, so our next one, we have a few from NYDLS30, who's we've featured his questions a couple times. He's an avid listener of the podcast, which we appreciate. So his first one was, I want to know how much you guys use macro variables, whether or not you use in-process gauging with the probe, and if you have a camera set up on your machine to watch it run from a distance. I know one of you doesn't have a probe, but probably should.
Oh
Wink, wink.
my gosh.
Yes, I love it. Shame Payton into getting a probe like he should.
Yeah, just keep
Please.
asking questions that I can't answer. Do that.
Yeah, exactly. You'll want to join the party.
Feel left out over here. I'm already gonna feel left out at IMTS. Won't be able to go to a bar.
You can come in, you just can't drink.
That's true. Gosh darn it.
That's okay. I'm just, yeah. So as far as me, obviously I have the probe. Well, you can answer. Do you have a camera? Well, yeah. From what we just said, you wouldn't feel left out for having a probe.
Oh my god.
I mean, you can answer. Do you have a camera to watch your machine run for 10 plus hours?
I do, but it wouldn't really matter if a 10th tool broke, really.
Right. But you do have one. Like I don't have anything to watch the machine. I don't really have a need. I don't have cycle times longer than, I think the longest I've had in the Brother is maybe 30 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I have a little Amazon camera I can view on my phone or my computer, which is nice. It's just nice to see the green light. That's about it.
Yeah. So I don't have a camera. As far as macro variables and in-process gauging, I'm actually in the middle of, right now the post from Fusion does not do in-process gauging, at least without the extension. And so I'm kind of learning through the Brother probing manual, or the Yamazin probing manual, how that all works. And I definitely want to start using it more and more. And I'm definitely going to be learning it both at my shop and at my day job. So I think very quickly catch on how I want to use it and all that. I know some macro programming and variables.
Okay.
I don't really use them all that much in my programs. Like I'll occasionally throw like a go-to line or something like that if I want to skip over a part of my program. But I definitely can edit them. I mean, I just this week had to set up a probe at my day job for a new machine, and so the new Renishaw probes, at least on Fanuc, come with this Go Probe program, or like a macro, and compared to the old Easy Set macro, I really don't like it. Like there's a lot more variables. It's more powerful, but for like what we're using manually probing on the machines, the Easy Set was way easier. Like you edited this one line on a program, it activates the probe, does its probing, and stops.
Okay.
The new Go Probe, there's like, I don't know, 3 or 4, if not 5 variables you have to edit to tell it like what kind of probing, what to do when it's done, and blah 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 blah. It's just like, I don't know. Like I'm sure somebody's going to yell at me and say like it's so much better. There's all these things you can do, but for what we're using it for, and to maintain parity across, I don't know, if we've got 10 or 12 machines with probing, it just made sense to kind of port over the Easy Set. So I had to go in there and change some variables and make sure that it all lined up with the new version of probing in there. But yeah, I wish I'd used them more. I have the book that Grimsmo has shown before. I have not gotten through it because of time, but that's kind of one of my goals for this year is to get more through it.
Yeah, probing and especially variables, since I learned about them, they really interest me and I really want to get into them. So I think it's a really cool concept. It's almost like a lot of people don't know it's there, and it's like it just makes your machine seem that much more capable.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, it gives it at least a semblance of intelligence.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'll definitely start playing with it. I know I need to. I'm going to have to edit all my probing macros on the Brother because so that I've actually been talking with one of the Yamazin techs about this. The probing macros straight from Yamazin are a little slow. Well, at least in comparison to the rest of the machine, and it's because the control is so fast that there is a bunch of G4 weights and a bunch of endo blocks in the probing routines, so that the control doesn't just blow past parts of it. Like it'll, blow past like turn on probe and do this and do this, and it'll just do them all like at the same time if you don't have some weight codes between them.
okay.
And so I'm gonna have to tweak some of that just to make it a little faster because like for example, if I'm drilling and tapping 4 holes on the side of a part and probing, it'll take longer to do the probing than it will to drill and tap 4 holes.
I was about to say, yeah.
So it's a mild annoyance, but it's one of those things. It's like, well, I've got the power to change it, and so I'll play around with it and do that.
Yeah.
And then I also need to edit all my probing routines because I'm going to switch over pretty soon here to the new in version 10 and version 10 and up of the C0 control. There's a new high speed code versus the old high speed codes that is supposed to be better, and there's more levels of it. But I
Really?
need to go into every probing macro and add a line that cancels the high speed codes. Yeah, it works more like a G187 and a Haas, where there's like a standard level and you can edit it. It's like M280 something P0 through 7 or 0 through 8.
Okay.
So I need to go through and add that and kind of modify my post to use it. So yeah, I know of it. I know a little bit. I can work myself through macro stuff. I just don't know as much as I wish I did.
Yeah, gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. And then his other question was, what do we use for feeds and speeds? Proven cut, G Wizard, slide rule, CNC cookbook.
Uh, I don't know. Question mark. Past
um,
experience.
yeah. So for me, it is partially past experience, partially manufacturer recommendations,
Yep.
some experimenting I've done on the machine. Like I don't know. I feel like after running in the machine for a while and programming cuts and things like that, what RPM bands are least harmonic. You know what feed rates are the best for your machine. You can always push them harder, but like where a good starting point is, at least for most materials. And then like just listening and playing with the knobs, like you can usually dial in something pretty decent. Um, I don't use anything like Proven Cut or G Wizard or he showed me the slide rule comes from he has like one of those slide feed and speed slide
I've
rules
seen
from
those. Yeah.
uh, Niagara, and I've got one for my shear hog, I think, and like I know how to use them. I have used them in the past here and there, but like they're definitely not my go-to. Like I don't have one sitting on my desk at all.
Yeah. And one really good um, thing that I was taught in school was for drilling, you can't, so drilling in aluminum and you're using high speed steel drills, just standard drills, you can't go wrong with 150 surface footage and 5 thou per tooth to start. Like that will never hurt you. And then with
Yeah,
tools
if
like,
anything, that's a little light. I think I do 300
okay, yeah,
surface feet. So like all of our drills are that Morse drill set
yep,
from Ari Tool, and so they have a really good speed and feed um, document on their website.
yeah. I'm
It
just
gives you
talking for like total beginners because I got actually a message on Instagram of a guy asking, I can't remember what machine he was on, but he was having some troubles with like chatter and stuff. And he was asking some, to me, basic questions, but it was cool to try to help him out and figure it out. Um,
totally, yeah.
and definitely, like you said, these are slow. Just because an instructor was telling me from a school, and he was like, Peyton, you can learn and do whatever you want, but like to people that don't know machining, like I'm not gonna tell them to do what we really should be. Like I don't want to be breaking drills and end mills left and right. Um,
Yeah, it's always a weird thing, especially like when you program for other people too. It's like
yeah,
how I don't want them to think that I'm a bad programmer, but I also don't know their machine as well as they do, and I don't want to snap things off. Yeah, it's a little an interesting conundrum.
yeah, and you don't want to go too fast where they're like, "Whoa, what does this guy think he can do?" But it's like, it can take it, and
Yeah, um, yeah. But like you said, I think it's a lot of it is experience. Manufacturer recommendations are great, and then yeah, just having some baseline stuff is always good.
oh yeah, what I was gonna say for end mills, this is just what I was taught in school. Once again, conservative numbers, 5 thou per tooth. Let's say aluminum, 10,000 RPMs, and he taught us what's called the 80-20 rule or 80-10 rule. Yeah, 80-10 rule, where you can take either 80% the diameter of the cutter in width of cut, but then you only take 10% in length of cut, or vice versa.
Okay, yeah. I understand that.
So if you have a half-inch tool, you can take a 80% depth of cut, being let's say 800 thou, but you can only take 10% of width of cut, which would be 50 thou. If
Yeah,
that
that totally makes sense.
if that was the right math, I can't remember. Now I'm questioning myself.
I mean, but like most manufacturers will give you those numbers too.
Yeah.
Like any end mill manufacturer worth its salt has rough numbers on their website that are a great place to start. So far, of all the manufacturers that I've worked with, Helical and GW are relatively on the aggressive side, whereas everybody else seems to be middle of the road, if not slightly conservative.
And that's what I found talking to salesmen of tools is they're honest with me, and they'll be like, take our numbers and back off 20%, and then you're good.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they're
and like
obviously pushing it for selling points.
right, yeah. Well, and if you look at like Destiny, they give you a range. They're like, here is the minimum chip load, here is the maximum, here's the minimum surface foot, here's the maximum. And like the maximum surface foot just says max. Like they don't. It's like whatever your spindle can support, just do it.
Yeah.
Or at least for aluminum tools. So yeah, it really depends on the manufacturer too. But like the helical ones, man, they at least in like 304 when we were using them, they were, whew. I'd love to try them on the Brother now with dual contact. I think they would do a lot better. But in the Kitty, like it was way too aggressive. I had to turn all the sliders down to like, more tool life, less rigid setup, blah blah blah, and I was still maybe 10 or 20% over what I ended up running at.
Really?
Yeah, but it was a great. I still used the same chip load. I just lowered speeds and feeds.
Okay.
So it at least gives you their what is it, Map Machining Advisor Pro gives you a great idea of what the tool is supposed to take as far as chip load.
Okay.
So yep, that's where we're at.
Awesome.
Um, so the last big one that we had, three people, 523 Industries, T5 Manufacturing, and Split 141 all asked is how are we both dealing with COVID and what do we expect of the economy and what are we doing to in response to that?
You want to go first?
Sure. So Tucson is like we're not quite as locked down as Cali, but our governor canceled schools for at least the next month earlier in the week or last week. Our mayor just suspended all gathering places, so all bars, all restaurants, anything like that is closed except for takeout. And like I have definitely already started to see it affect our business. Like a few of our major customers that are outside of the state have emailed us saying that they're closed. They sent all their employees home, and for the time being, they're 100% closed. Thankfully, all of the orders that we already had with them are still valid and good. They just said don't ship any parts until we tell you otherwise.
Wow.
So, well, it's definitely here. It's definitely real. I think we've got 4 confirmed cases in Tucson so far, and if it like there's the R naught value of a disease, which just tells you how many people one person will infect, and that's a 2 to 1 for this disease. So we can expect. I mean, we'll see. With all these measures in effect, maybe nothing will happen, and that means they've worked. But if they don't work, that means that we'll see that double, every week at least, if not every couple days.
Yeah.
Um, so we're doing all right. Like we've got some cash reserves. We're definitely cutting costs where we can to build up those cash reserves because whether or not this gets any worse, this is going to affect the economy for the worst for right now. And so I'm just building up cash reserves and making sure we have money to pay bills. I'm not really worried about it, but it's it is what it is. And I definitely expect the economy to take a turn for the worse though in the coming months.
I mean, yeah, it already has, with Dow Jones being down to 20,000 the other day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about like my customers specifically. Like my
Okay.
customers, I don't think are very. Most of the industries we serve are not very affected by that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But like I just think in general, people are going to be more conservative with their money and conservative with their business. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm not worried. I'm not panicked. I'm not any of that stuff. I'm going to be smart about it. I'm not going to be spending money that I don't need to spend. And then I'm just going to be operating business as usual. Get work done, get work out as much as I can. Maybe try to pick up some new customers here. We'll see. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm, I guess, cautiously optimistic that this. I mean, it's gonna suck, but we're gonna get through it no problem, and yeah, that's how we are.
Yeah, that last statement I definitely agree with. It's going to be weird. I think for the next year, this whole year is going to be kind of weird, but I mean, I'm in Washington and I don't know compared to other states how bad it is. I honestly don't follow the news that much cuz it's a lot of noise to me, but you know, being in Washington, I think we have the most like cases and deaths. I'm not sure if that's real or not, but I'm pretty sure it is.
I think
Um,
you're right. Yeah.
I mean, there's places in this area that like are 30 minutes from me where it's like a hot spot and then it's like I had a meeting to go to and I'm like, yeah, we're going to do a conference call type thing. Um and it's just all the stuff that you're hearing, just boost your hygiene and people just need to step up to the plate a little bit and I feel like we'll be totally fine. Talking to my buddy today with his stuff, he does a lot of medical injection molding and I was talking to him about that and a lot of these parts are for like surgeries and stuff and he's like, yeah, that's just sales have dropped for them because of, you know, that's not what these medical companies are focusing on. Everyone's turned their heads, 180 degrees to fight this new thing. Um, but it's also interesting because he's like, yeah, but you won't believe the amount of gun parts we're making now. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. Oh yeah. That was one thing I wanted to speak about. Like I don't know if you've gone shopping recently,
uh-huh.
but y'all people need to stop stocking up on toilet paper and stupid shit. Like what the hell? Of course, this last week I was already running low on toilet paper. Like, just it was the natural cycle of the big pack that I bought from Costco. And like, so last Thursday, I called every single Walmart in town, like all, I don't know, 15 of them or something, or 20. And there was only one that said they had toilet paper, and they were 25 minutes away from me. And so, like, I immediately jumped in the car and drove down there, and it was out by the time I got there.
it's it's messed up because the what is it, pandemonia? What is that? Like,
Pandemic?
yeah. Or I don't know,
Oh,
like,
okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like the whole everyone's freaking out at once and people don't know what to do. And it's just like, that's part of the problem is not staying calm because it's like if we just lived our everyday lives, and went to the store and got what we need instead of like screwing over the next five people because you bought everything, like that's part of the issue. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change anything.
No, no. Well, like, and Another example I had was I needed coin cell batteries for my garage door opener, and so I went to the nearest Bash's, like the nearest grocery store that I have, and was like, "Hey, where's your batteries?" And they're like, "Oh, aisle 6, right there on your right." And I go, and there's no batteries left. There's not even like a semblance of a display for batteries.
Oh
It's just
shoot.
like blank shelves, and I'm like, "Who in their right mind is hoarding coin cell batteries? Like, what do you think you're going to use them for? What do you like?
Your
What?"
mag light on their AR.
Right, right. I was like, yeah. Well, even that those take like CR
I
123 or
know.
something. I'm like, dude, you don't need like I need a big fat like two of the big fat coin cells, and I'm like, what are you using them for? Like, stop. Yeah, it's just insane. I think that yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess the best part of this whole thing has been the memes, and those have been kind of funny, but otherwise, it has shown how fragile we all are and how fragile our society is for sure.
Yeah. I hope everyone can take something away from this whenever it's over.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, yeah, it's so bizarre. I know the thing that stood out with the whole toilet paper thing was somebody posted. They're like, I can't wait for the next diarrhea disease where all you buy nasal spray. And it's like, yeah, there's no point. Like, did you not know that toilet paper doesn't cure COVID? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It bothers me the lack of forethought on some of these people. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's how we're dealing with it. It's not going to be easy, but I think both of us will be able to weather the storm pretty well. We both like I can make payments on my machine. I can make payments on rent and all that stuff. I'm not super stressed about it. Yeah, that's just kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
So
It's just gonna be a weird year. That's all I think that's gonna happen.
yeah, I think manufacturing. I mean, unless you're directly related to I don't know, like airplanes or cruise liners or anything like that. But if you're making other parts, you'll probably be okay. But it will be just a weird year. Like there's going to be a lot of people that are out of work. Like my girlfriend's a teacher, and they close down schools for at least the rest of the month.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like it's very strange. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. So
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's not like maybe this is different, but like where I'm at, it's like if she was here, like it's not like she could go be a barista. I mean, because like there's almost nothing open, and
right. Oh yeah.
it's like okay, where's like kind of the fallback high school jobs that people could pick up? They don't exist anymore.
Yeah. I mean, they're all service industry for the most part.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It'll just be really interesting to kind of see how this all plays out, and just be a good person, help out where you can.
yeah,
Like there's a lot of you got to remember there's a lot of like kids that rely on school for lunch and for food. Like help out where you can there. Like help out anybody who's in need. I don't know, just be like a good person, be empathetic. It's I shouldn't have to say something so obvious, but it seems like it needs to be said.
I agree.
So anyway, guys, stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you next week with Angelo. Definitely get your questions in for that. All you guys are having to self quarantine anyway, so you might as well bone up on some Fusion stuff and learn how to cam stuff better and use Fusion as a power user. Angelo has done a million demos. I think if you've probably seen a demo at I don't know any trade show for the last few years, he's probably the one who's programmed and set it up. So he is the man to talk to about all kinds of cool stuff. I can't wait to get some stories from him. I know him and CJ are like seem like they're the Fusion outreach at this point. Like they do all of the meet and greet kind of demo days and all that stuff. So it'll be a good episode.
Yeah, I'm really interested to talk to him and kind of see his background and whatnot.
Totally. Well, again, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, you filthy animals, and we'll see you next week.
Yep. See you guys.